Taking a look at the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl in Glendale, Arizona, Iowa State against Oregon. Iowa State comes into this matchup a 4.5-point favorite with a total set at around 57. Actually, it's 57 as I'm doing this video. Iowa State comes in 8-3, second in the Big 12. Of course, they lost the Big 12 championship game to Oklahoma. Oregon comes in 4-2, Pac-12 champion. And the reason they ended up as Pac-12 champions is because with Washington had to withdraw from the Pac-12 championship game against USC due to COVID-related issues. Oregon stepped in and walked out with a 31-24 win at USC. The Ducks come in averaging 33 points a game, 180 on the ground, 250 in the air, while the Iowa State defense is only allowing 21 points a game, only 105 on the ground, 238 in the air. Now, the Cyclones offense comes in averaging 32 points a game, 192 on the ground, of course, led by running back Breece Hall, and 250 yards passing a game. The Oregon defense comes in allowing 273 points per game, 159 on the ground, 249 in the air, and of course, slowed down that USC passing game just enough in the Pac-12 championship game to get out of there with the Pac-12 title and the win and a spot in the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl. Now, let's look at the key players in this matchup. Iowa State, of course, offense led by Brock Purdy, 22 total touchdowns, 2,500 passing yards, 340 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, 18 passing touchdowns. But of course, this offense goes through running back Breece Hall. 245 carries on the year, over 1,400 yards, 19 touchdowns rushing, 21 receptions, over 170 receiving yards, 2 more touchdowns, 21 total touchdowns for Breece Hall. The receivers, looking at Xavier Hutchinson, comes in as the leading receiver, 60 receptions, 726 yards, 4 TDs. Charlie Kolar, the tight end, 39 receptions. He's got 6 touchdowns. And then you've got a couple of other bigger targets. Sean Shaw, 20 receptions and a touchdown. Landon Akers has caught 17 passes and a TD. Chase Allen, the other tight end, 16 catches for 215 yards and 2 touchdowns. And of course, Tariq Milton returned at the end of the year. He's got 13 receptions for 106 yards. So a deep receiving core for Iowa State at Brock Purdy's disposal, primarily Xavier Hutchinson and Charlie Kolar at tight end. And then Breece Hall, of course, the running back, both as a runner and his dual threat receiving ability, 21 receptions out of the backfield, which I believe is the 3rd highest total on the team. Looking at the key players on offense for Oregon, Tyler Shaw has been the primary quarterback for Oregon all season long, but Anthony Brown got work in the Pac-12 championship game. Probably used so more in short yardage red zone situations, and he had a couple of touchdowns in that game. He's got 17 passing yards, 2 passing TDs. Whether or not that package continues into the bowl game, there's no reason to think that it will not. I would expect to see Brown in the game for Oregon in red zone situations, very similar to the Pac-12 championship. Why so? Because it worked. The formula worked, and they were actually able to get out of that game with the with the Pac-12 championship. So I do think we'll see some rotation, particularly in the red zone. So that's not great for the fantasy prospects of Tyler Shaw. The running back's a little bit of a mixed bag. You got CJ Verdell, you got Travis Dye. I think a lot of it goes in, a lot of what plays into this is how healthy will somebody like CJ Verdell be. Travis Dye's got 221 receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns, but he's only got 8 receptions. Verdell's got more receptions. He's averaging over 10 yards a catch as well. So, but if we're going to go based on what we've seen during the season, you would think that Dye would be the running back to have in this offense, in this particular matchup, because one, he's averaging more rushing yards per carry. He's averaging over 20 yards per catch, and he's got 4 receiving touchdowns. So he's got 5 total touchdowns. Verdell 4. I'm going to go with Travis Dye, my preference to have a running back in this matchup. And I say that just because Iowa State's only allowing 105 on the ground. So if Oregon does have trouble getting that running game kickstarted, you're looking at Dye possibly having a bigger role in or making some bigger plays in the passing game. The receivers, Jalen Redd, 22 receptions this year. Of course, DJ Johnson, the tight end, has been in and out. He's got 9 catches, 3 touchdowns. Johnny Johnson, only 15 catches. He's got 2. And then Hunter Kampmoyer as well, the other tight end. He's got 11 receptions, 3 touchdowns. So you're not seeing most of what happens in the Oregon offense is going to be through the running game, and then they're going to spread it around in the passing game. If I had to take one player right now going into the bowl game, if DJ Johnson, the tight end, is 100% healthy, he would be the guy that I would want in this matchup. A third of his catches have gone for touchdowns. There's no reason to think that trend will not continue as long as Oregon is able to get the ball in the red zone against Iowa State, which could be a little bit of a challenge depending on how well they're able to move the ball against the Iowa State run defense. When you look at the Iowa State side, of course, everything that we do, of course, Brock Purdy kind of leads the charge under center as quarterback. But if there's one player you want in this matchup, it's Breece Hall. He's been one of the, if not the best, fantasy running backs in the nation this year. Breece Hall would be my choice of the top fantasy play in this matchup. I'd probably even take Brock Purdy as the second best option, and maybe even Xavier Hutchinson as the third best option, and particularly with the rotation with Oregon at quarterback, the rotation in the backfield at Oregon with the running backs, and then not knowing who the primary number 1 receiver is. I think the players to own in this matchup are all on the Iowa State side. I think it's an Iowa State stack for me. Give me Breece Hall. He's 1. Give me Brock Purdy as the second best play. And then I think you're looking at Xavier Hutchinson and Charlie Kolar as kind of 3A, 3B. I take Kolar more of a red zone threat, Xavier Hutchinson between the 20s, depending on how this game plays out. But for me, I'd rather have any 4 of those guys right now than the security of maybe or the uncertainty of what's going on the Oregon side. Now, let's get into the picks a little bit here on this one. As I mentioned, Iowa State comes in 4.5-point favorite, 57-point total. Of course, Iowa State struggled with that loss. First game of the season against Louisiana out of the Sun Belt. They gave up 3 big plays, wound up losing that game 31-14. Their other loss during the regular season was at Oklahoma State. They only lost that game by 3. And then, of course, in the Big 12 championship, made a run at Oklahoma late, got the ball back down 6, but was unable to score to win and pull out the Big 12 championship. They went on a nice run after that loss to Oklahoma State, though. They won at Kansas. They beat Baylor. They beat Kansas State, at Texas, West Virginia, and they won that West Virginia game pretty easily and were as high as number 6 in the in the college football playoff, in the latest college football playoff poll before that Big 12 championship. Oregon, much like a lot of what we discussed in the Big 10, particularly with Ohio State, a shortened and abbreviated season, only 6 games. They were able to go 4-2. They dropped their last 2 regular season games. They lost 41-38 at Oregon State and lost at Cal 21-17, both close games. And then they were able to win at USC 31-24. I think in this game, I really liked, even though I've been down on the Big 12 most of the year, I do like the way that Iowa State finished up the year. And you have to be impressed with the way that Oregon was able to kind of pull things together in the Pac-12 championship game as well. Oregon has played every game tight. And Iowa, to me, has kind of been on the roll during the second half of the season. Oregon won the Pac-12 championship after losing 2 in a row. It's difficult to see how this one is going to play out, because even in their losses, Oregon has still played things close. 4.5-point spread. If I'm going based on what I've seen and what we see on paper, Oregon's the play. They haven't lost a game. They've lost 2 games. They lost by 3 and they lost by 4 points. But I'm going to buck the trend on this one. I'm going to go with Matt Campbell in Iowa State. I think they're going to be able to pull things together here. I think for Oregon, that was a big emotional win for them in the Pac-12 championship. I look for Matt Campbell. I really like Matt Campbell to pull things together. I like the Iowa State running game and Breece Hall. I like the ability of Brock Purdy and the way that he's played down the stretch. I think they can win this game by more than 4. I think they can win this game by a touchdown. I like Iowa State to win this one outright. I like for Iowa State to cover the 4.5 points. And I'm also going to go for this game. I'm also going to call for this game to go over the total of 57, just barely. That's my pick for this year's PlayStation Fiesta Bowl.